Against the Chiefs, the 49ers would be facing a squad which in 2 games averaged 28 points an outing, yet was winless. And for the Kansas City staff, headed by new coach Paul Wiggin in red, last Sunday's contest would provide a flicker of hope, for it featured the return of a swarming, hard-hitting, aggressive Chief defense. Kansas City stalked the 49ers all afternoon and pressured quarterback Norm Snead, number 16, into a short passing game, which paid only small dividends. Patiently moving with short pops and slants, Snead sent tight end Tom Mitchell, number 84, over the middle for the game's first touchdown. San Francisco's final score came on a pop up the middle by Larry Schreiber, number 35, who followed the blocking of center Bill Reed in for 6. When it had counted, San Francisco's offensive line had provided the necessary protection for its backs, and there were times when the Kansas City offensive line did the same for quarterback Lynn Dawson, number 16. But rare were those times when Dawson's line provided enough protection, and even keeping both backs in the block did no good at all. Six times Lenny Dawson fell before a stampede of 49ers as San Francisco rolled to a 20-3 win. Costly turnovers and the failure to execute adequate pass blocking was the difference in Kansas City. Pass protection would also play a vital role in the Los Angeles Coliseum, where an improving Baltimore Colt offensive line spared quarterback Burt Jones the anguish and pain generally associated with the powerful Ram pass rush. Jones stood tall in that pocket while delivering 2 scoring strikes, one to his setback Bill Oles, number 38. The Colts, whose rebuilding program seems at last to be paying off with young, quality talent, feature a host of genuine hitmen on the defense. And for at least the first half last week, Rambacks saw more than they cared to of the energetic Colt defenders. But as well as Baltimore played, the experience and poise of the veteran Ram offensive line was just too tough to overcome. And paced by solid blocks by Cowan, Max Saul, Shabelli, and Williams, L.A. came back and marched past the Colts. Number 30, Lawrence McCutcheon, breezed in for 1 Ram score, while quarterback James Harris took a loftier route to the end zone for 2 more Ram touchdowns. Harris nailed number 29, Harold Jackson, for his first scoring shot, then iced the win with a pretty toss and catch to speedster Ron Jesse, number 81. Jesse's classy catch climaxed a 24-13 Los Angeles win. The Rams' experience and poise during the final quarter had paid off, And it is this poise mixed with spirited enthusiasm which has earned the Rams their last 2 victories. And it's a formula which may well earn them many, many more. Last Sunday, for Miami Dolphin linemen, that something else was the collective pride involved in springing backs into Green Bay's end zone. By looking at Don Nottingham's touchdown from a different angle, we see how Miami tackle Norm Evans took Johnny Gray, the safety man, out of the play. Still hustling downfield after 11 years of action, Evans' block was the key to Miami's first score. While churning out 107 yards rushing, Nottingham, also known as the human bowling ball, rolled 3 times over the Packer goal line. And when not carrying the ball, Nottingham, the blocker, helped teammate Mercury Morris get a start on the 125 yards of rushing number 22 contributed to the Miami cause. Bob Greasy kept the Packers off balance with effective passing to number 89, Nat Moore, which set up 1 touchdown for the Dolphins. But Greasy's most impressive volley was a shot down the right sideline to rookie Freddie Solomon, number 86, whose 58-yard touchdown added up to a 31-7 Miami romp. In Buffalo's rich stadium, the romping was done at the expense of the Denver Broncos. The Broncos were thoroughly subdued by the powerful Bills. But as usual, a dominant figure was O.J. Simpson, who squeezed out 138 yards. With over 500 yards in 3 games, O.J.'s getting superb blocking. And as his touchdown shows, he's the first one to acknowledge his teammates up front. Denver's offensive line was ineffective, however, and their running game was stopped cold. From then on, it was drop back at lunchtime for Denver, whose first score was scooped in by number 44, Floyd Little. Unfortunately, it never got competitive, as Denver's only other score came late in the 3rd quarter, when John Huffnagel, number 16, threw to rookie Rick Upchurch, who burned 80 yards for the score. Without a running threat, the Broncos' pass dependency was absolute. And early in the game, their high-risk tactics blew up in their face. Safety Tony Green picked up the fumble, and the Bills were in business at the Denver 1-yard line. From there, O.J. Simpson set up opposite linebacker 56 Ray May, and in one play showed what kind of a team man O.J. really is. O.J. digs him out of the hole. Scoring his first of 3 touchdowns was O.J.'s co-star fullback Jim Braxton, who powered through Denver territory with or without blocking for 107 yards. Weighing in at 242, Braxton brings real wallop to the Bills' ground attack and can open up the attack with his pass-catching abilities as well. And as Joe Ferguson's final touchdown pass to J.D. Hill was registered, the Bills had blown away yet another good football team, 38-14, and stood confirmed now as a new powerhouse in the NFL.
The fired-up Houston Oilers stormed into the Astrodome to battle the Cincinnati Bengals with undisputed first place in the AFC Central Division at stake. But following a scoreless first period, the Oilers' newfound enthusiasm flattened out beneath the cool precision of Kenny Anderson, Linville Elliott, and the relentless Bengal passing attack. Elliott's 31-yard broken field display set the stage for Anderson's first 6-point connection of the afternoon. But the Oilers' most potent ground-gaining weapon doesn't throw the football, he runs with it. And on the ensuing kickoff, Billy White Shoes Johnson demonstrated the game-breaking form that put his footwear on the map. Seven plays later, Fred Willis scored, and the underdog Oilers deadlocked the Bengals at 7 apiece. Then once again, it was time for Mr. Field Position to slice a path through frustrated Bengal tacklers. This Johnson spectacular set up Bill Butler's 37-yard field goal, which gave the Oilers a 10-7 halftime lead. But Billy Jay's best efforts were yet to come. Unfortunately for Johnson, a teammate deflected this pass into Johnson's hands, nullifying the score but not Johnson's celebration. However, the next time Johnson touched the ball, neither the beleaguered Bengals specialists nor the NFL rulebook could slow him down. Johnson's 67-yard return increased Houston's lead to 17-7, and the Oilers seemed safely on their way to a mild upset. But the NFL's premier passer pulled out the stops in the final period, as Houston's lead was carved to 3 on this Anderson to Stan Fritz aerial. A playbook perspective from high above the Astrodome playing surface reveals the elements of a successful passing attack. Here, Anderson set up behind a perfect pass pocket. The Bengal offensive line gave Anderson ample time to throw and allowed Fritz to get behind Houston linebacker Steve Kiner. Result, 6 points. Following an Oiler fumble, Anderson resumed his customary aerial barrage, this time going to his favorite receiver, Isaac Curtis, and the Bengals led for the first time. With time now working against him, Oiler quarterback Dante Pastorini pump faked, then launched a missile for double-O Kenny Burrow, whose speed forced Bengal cornerback Ken Riley to drape himself over Burrow's back, and the yellow flag signaled first and goal on the 1. 3 times Cincinnati slammed the door on Houston ball carriers, forcing the Oilers to gamble. And on 4th and goal, the fired-up Bengal defense made the play of the game. The rousing goal line stand drained the life from the Oiler offense. Nonetheless, as time expired, the first-place Bengals and head coach Paul Brown knew that the Houston Oilers had become a team to reckon with. The fruits and flowers of pro football need no introduction. They are the glamour figures of American sport. They take their place on the field amid acclaim and adulation, while other equally interesting faces go unrecognized. The most anonymous and ignored of this breed is the offensive lineman, football's ground soldier. Seldom is this shadowy domain probed by public scrutiny. Yet week after week along this narrow strip of turf, called the line of scrimmage, offensive linemen determine the course of each game. To the unpracticed eye, offensive line play is a chaotic swirl of unrelated energy. But actually, each man's task is well defined and crucial to the success or failure of any play. Proper technique can allow an offense to open up and prosper, while a misstep or faulty execution will doom even a well-conceived game plan to failure. Positively or negatively, offensive linemen are a factor in every play. Last week, all around the league, the battles raged as usual, up and down the line. During the show, we'll feature the outcome of some of these struggles and demonstrate that the final score is often determined by who wins these duels in the dust. Out in San Diego, one charged-up offensive line ran right into trouble. The Oakland Raider defense quickly took over the scrimmage line. Here, Otis Sistrunk, number 60, has penetrated the San Diego backfield through a Charger lineman. This domination leaves the runner nowhere to turn. Even when the San Diego line did give number 14, Dan Fouts, a little time to throw, there were breakdowns elsewhere. Number 26, Skip Thomas, took this interception as San Diego managed to scrape together only 93 total yards for the entire day. Trouble was, Oakland's offense fared a little better. After a long afternoon of offensive futility, the Young Turks finally gave way to Methuselah. 48-year-old George Blanda provided the game's only points with 2 field goals for a 6-0 Oakland victory. Meanwhile, out in St. Louis, the Cardinal offensive line met with much greater success. Dan Deerdorf led the way against the New York Giants from his right tackle position. On this play, Deerdorf post-blocks his man to seal off the inside, while guard Conrad Dobler, number 66, pulls and kicks out on the linebacker, providing a funnel of daylight for quick Terry Metcalf, number 21. Metcalf is the type of runner who can make good use of his blocks while running a play that develops his diagram, but when the need arises, can also improvise and adjust. Against New York, Terry Metcalf and the offensive line were an unbeatable combination. When Metcalf wasn't carrying the ball, number 35, Jim Otis, took over. The hole that the offensive line provided was similar, but the style was different. While Metcalf outquicks, Otis overpowers. Otis barreled in to secure a 26-14 St. Louis victory that was as much a tribute to an excellent offensive line as it was to a couple of young running backs who each gained over 100 yards rushing for the day. In New York's Shea Stadium, the Jets' offensive line was preparing to go the same infantry route. A strong running attack had led them to an easy victory over Kansas City the week before. But the New England Patriots came out tough against the run, so quarterback Joe Namath opted for Plan B, much to the dismay of Patriot defensive backs. Provided with proper time, Joe Willie can still shoot a secondary full of holes. In the first half, Namath threw 13 completions in 16 attempts, and the reason was simple. When a defensive line is kept this far away, the man makes magic happen. Number 88, Rich Castor, scored from the 2-yard line on a quick out as the Patriots watched a once promising season continue to disintegrate. New England coach Chuck Fairbanks anxiously observed the season's debut of his most important player, quarterback Jim Plunkett, number 16. But the effects of a preseason shoulder separation were still painfully apparent. With timing rusty and passes somewhat forced, Plunkett soon realized that his comeback had been attempted too soon. Number 56, Godwin Turk, a second-year linebacker from Southern University, celebrated his first pro interception in grand style. While the Patriots faltered, Namath continued his bombing run, this time tucking the ball into a corner for number 83, Jerome Barkham. In the fourth quarter, third stringer Steve Grogan, number 14, took over for Plunkett and finally gave New England some offense. But the touchdown pass to rookie tight end Russ Francis, number 81, came long after the game had been decided. Down where it usually is decided, along the line of scrimmage. It was here that the Jets really did the job. The source of Sugar Bear Hamilton's frustration can be shown on a replay, as number 12 takes advantage of yet another perfect pass pocket. By day's end, Namath had thrown 4 touchdown passes. Castor had 6 receptions for 110 yards, and once again the glamour figures got most of the credit. But the game ball went to the New York offensive line, the faceless men who made it all happen in a resounding 36-7 New York victory. Last Sunday, Steve Bartkowski said, "I'm earning an awful lot of money to play football, and I just haven't been playing 4 good quarters." But Bartkowski's problems were minimal compared with those of his opponent, number 8, Archie Manning, whose New Orleans Saints, their 3 games thus far, have a scoring average of only 3 1/3 points per game. Number 54, Fulton Kuykendall, a rookie linebacker from UCLA, turned back one New Orleans thrust, and then the Falcons' rebuilt offensive line gave Steve Bartkowski the time he needed to find the open man, like Ken Burrow, number 82, the Falcons' best wide receiver for the past 5 seasons, and the man who scored Atlanta's first touchdown last Sunday. Ken Burrow is the Falcons' most dependable wide receiver. But another Atlanta receiver who must always be reckoned with is tight end Jim Mitchell, number 86. Jim Mitchell, a solid 235 pounds, is not exactly a pushover in the open field. The game's biggest play was a combination of Bartkowski, Burrow, and Mitchell. First, Bartkowski hit Burrow with a 15-yard slant, but Burrow lost the ball, and along came good old 86, Jim Mitchell, to save the day for the Falcons. 77 yards later, the Falcons had their second touchdown and their first victory of the season. Receivers and runners are notorious for their end zone antics. But sometimes an intelligent man like Jim Mitchell will permit an unsung hero a moment of glory, like offensive guard Laren Jackson, number 68. While the Falcons celebrated their first victory with a brand new quarterback, in Minnesota, a wise old pro led the Vikings over an inexperienced Chicago Bear team, led by a confused Gary Huff at quarterback. While Huff suffered, the Vikings' superior offensive line gave Fran Tarkenton ample time to step up and deliver to his favorite receiver, John Gilliam, number 42. Near the goal line, Tarkenton didn't even bother to fake because he saw that Gilliam had an easy touchdown. Behind his mobile and effective offensive line, Fran Tarkenton threw for 2 more touchdowns, both to his underrated but sure-handed tight end, Stu Voigt, number 83. While crafty Fran was outfoxing the young Bears, another kind of quarterback story was developing in Cleveland, where number 15, Mike Phipps, has had only limited success in his 6-year professional career. Inexperience hurts anywhere, but especially in an offensive line which has to deal with people like number 68, L.C. Greenwood, one of the most valuable players in Super Bowl IX. On the other hand, the Pittsburgh offensive line gave Terry Bradshaw playbook-perfect protection. Bradshaw took advantage to complete his first 7 passes of the game, including several to his super second-year wide receiver, Lynn Swann, number 88. Bradshaw also effectively used his other super second-year wide receiver, John Stallworth, number 82. Bradshaw, Swann, and Stallworth led the Steelers to 21-0 first-half advantage. But then Bradshaw was forced out with a cut hand, and Joe Gilliam, number 17, finished up in style with 2 more touchdown bombs, one of them to fancy-stepping Lynn Swann. They bombed us right out of our minds, said Coach Forrest Gregg of the winless Browns. The final bombing run of the afternoon was launched by Jefferson Street Joe to still another second-year wide receiver, Reggie Garrett, number 86, as the world champion Steelers rebounded from their embarrassing defeat of the previous week to crush Cleveland 42-6.
The distinguished guest at Shea Stadium was the Emperor of Japan, Hirohito. He'd come to see the Jets battle the Patriots and try to understand a game that turns on an entire nation. In Japan, inscrutability is revered, public emotion held in disdain, and perhaps what the Emperor saw was not what you and I would see. Perhaps to some untutored eyes, football registers as a tabletop game, played by distant figures whose raiment is plastic, whose reasons are mechanical. But to even the casual fan, the beauty of the game and the talent of the men who play it soon becomes apparent. Even the untrained eye must appreciate the lofting arc of a well-thrown pass, the sensual symmetry of the turning spiral, the poetry of the game. Sometimes the poetry is farce, and the men who are the actors seem all the more human for it. Beneath the gladiator's battle garb pounds the heart of a flesh and blood person who desires to win, whose desire is sometimes frustrated by an inch or a fault that he himself must bear. And in failure, as in success, the emotions curdle to the surface, and our heroes, our idols, become all the more like real people to us. But in defeat, each man makes new vows, pledges new vitality to the game. Each man gives it his best shot. And like protons carrying in a nuclear reactor, the level of play and emotion reaches a peak of high velocity. Perhaps, sometimes, the emotional level runs too high and the red warning buzzer flashes overload. Perhaps we are all Romans at the games, slightly more sophisticated, slightly more humane, but just as highly tuned to emotion. Don't worry, for the punches fall for the most part on foam-filled pads. And after all, most of football's appeal is derived from the fact that it is an emotional game. And that's why we all love it. Even sweet old ladies like Coach George Allen's mother would have been the first to tell you that as she watched her son's team in Philadelphia last week. Perhaps the most emotional team in the NFL is the veteran Washington Redskins. Head coach George Allen has consistently proved that although age may slow a man down, emotion can speed him up. And he begins every game with an old-fashioned pep talk.
Everybody stick together, play as a team, don't worry about a goddamn thing, and be physical.
Mike McCormick needed no pregame talk to fire up his Philadelphia Eagles. Earlier in the week, he publicly accused his team of dogging it, remarked that there were several players who could just as well be wearing flea collars as shoulder pads. Against the undefeated Redskins, the Eagles responded to Coach McCormick's criticism by tearing Washington's offense to shreds. The Eagles forced and recovered 3 fumbles, intercepted Billy Kilmer 3 times. Two of Kilmer's passes were picked off by the Eagles' all-pro safety, Bill Bradley, number 28. It was a matter of attitude, said Bradley. We couldn't afford to lose today, and I was scared. I play better when I'm scared. There was just no way I could lose this football game. The charged-up Eagle defense set the tempo, and soon every man was playing with a passion born of anger and frustration. Every play, every gain was a personal step toward retrieving a season that many thought had already been lost. Roman Gabriel played the whole game at quarterback and thoroughly confused the Redskin defense with end-arounds, reverses, and double reverses. The Eagles' offensive line dominated the Redskins in every way. Gabriel was never touched and had enough time to throw 2 touchdown passes. One to Harold Carmichael, the other to Charlie Smith, number 85. Smith's touchdown gave the Eagles a lead they never relinquished, and they went on to whip the Redskins 26-10 and earn not only their first victory, but a newfound self-respect. I wanted to show Coach McCormick that I'm no dog, said Roman Gabriel. I wanted to let him know I'd never quit on him, but I guess that dog talk helped. There was a different feeling in the locker room before the game. For all the Eagles, there was a new feeling in the locker room after the game as well.
Let's take the man in here real good and tight. All right. Still, though, as John said this morning, we thank the man that gave us the ability. Now let's us use it.
John Nyland, lead us. John Nyland, lead us. John Nyland, lead us.
Well, dear Lord, I don't know how to pray. I'm just giving thanks for the ability you've given us, these men. We just pray, Lord, that we can go on from here and keep us from our prideful selves. Help us improve, search the mistakes we make. Allow us to step on the field next week to bring you glory.
What you did, you beat him in his own game. You beat him at the turnovers. 3 for the Eagles. Hip, hip, hooray! Hip, hip, hooray! Hip, hip, hooray! Great job! Great job!
All right. We got a lot of balls to give out. A lot of balls.
That's how we won this game with a lot of balls! A lot of balls! Long balls! Offensive line, the greatest in the world! Offensive line! All right. Mr. Toast! Mr. Toast, where are you? Where are you? Come on here. Come here. You call us dogs. Come in here, you big dog. All right. Hooray for Mr.
Okay, on defense, there was a son of a pup out there hitting like you wouldn't believe. John Bunning! Okay.
This is the happiest moment of my football career. There's a guy I've known, I've been waiting to win a ball game so bad so he could get the game ball and give it to him. His name Cap Shingleton. He has leukemia, and I'm going to get the ball and sign it and have all you guys sign it. I'll take it to him. All right. This is so great.
There was a son of a this week that got our minds right. I didn't like his f***ing remark about Willie Lanier, but anyhow, Mike McCormick.
Thank you. And you know it, just to repeat what John said, brother, a win over that football team, I'll cherish this one. Thank you very much.